I've got more horsepower between these two motorcycles than in a Bugatti Veyron. This is my personal 92 Boss Hoss, and it's one of the earlier versions of the Boss Hoss. Maybe this is like the first 20 or 30 ever made, and it is both horrible and horrifying. You see, when they were making this, their goal was, let's get a V8 Chevy crate motor onto a motorcycle. And that it was expensive, and that's not an easy thing for them to accomplish. So they did it the best way they could, and a lot of it was, throwing Harley Davidson parts on. Is the front end from a Harley Davidson Wide Glide. These buttons are all Harley Davidson parts, custom handlebars. So you get some Harley Davidson parts on it, then everything else is either off the shelf parts from some other industry or custom fabricated. And it kind of shows. See, back in '92, there did not exist a motorcycle tire that could handle the weight and power of this motorcycle. So what'd they do? They threw a car tire on it. This ridiculous gas tank is crazy wide, but it's actually two Fat Boy gas tanks cut in half with a piece welded in between to make a giant 8-gallon gas tank. They couldn't fit a regular transmission down there. They used some type of like bush hog transmission to take the power from the engine to the wheels, which makes the thing only one speed. But there's also no neutral. So the only way to disconnect the engine from the wheels is with a conventional clutch. But these clutches were not made for, you to be able to use them with your hand. They're made for your feet. Now, it's got a pneumatic booster connected to it, so you can actually use it with your hand. Which, if this thing fails, I don't want to be there if this thing fails. And of course, it's got a Chevy 350 crate motor in there, pushing around 350 horsepower. Now, don't get me wrong, the bike is pretty quick, but it's just missing that refinement that they solved. Now, where that was one of the earliest versions of the Boss Hoss, this is one of the most recent versions of the Boss Hoss. This is the Boss Hoss with the SS frame and the 496 big block engine. This thing is pushing out 600 horsepower from a motorcycle. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, why is it not more horsepower, Sean? We need more. You can get more if you wanted to. Those guys putting twin turbochargers, twin superchargers on here. I've seen some as many with 1,200 horsepower. So if you want more, it's an option. Now, they've made a lot of changes over the past 30 years with Boss Hoss, from multiple different frames to multiple different rakes to different engines. Now you can get them in fuel injection, and you can really see that this is a very, very refined motorcycle. And Boss Hoss is actually a production bike, even though they are all custom made. They did a great job putting these things together. It's night and day difference from that thing. Let me compare some of the features between the earlier models and the newest model, and then let's take this thing for a spin. So one of the biggest things you're gonna notice is the rake on the front end is much more drastic on this bike. That makes it much more stable when you're riding on this bike on the highway at the speeds that this bike can do. The other thing you'll notice is that the seat is sitting much farther back, almost closer to on the rear wheel, which makes it handle and perform a lot better because your weight is closer back there. So even though this thing has about 600 horsepower, it actually feels fairly stable while you're riding it. They also got rid of the Harley Davidson buttons, and they have their own Boss Hoss buttons, and it's super simple. Horn, turn signal, start button, on and off. You also notice this really cool, sleek digital gauge. Instead of having a bunch of gauges right here on the tank, you have a real nice, sleek tank that actually looks pretty awesome, but you have all the information you need right up here, and this changes from your range, to your oil, to your volts, to your clock, to your hours, to your RPMs. I like to keep it on RPMs. So where the older Boss Hoss was only a 1-speed, but also had a clutch to disengage it, this one has an automatic transmission that's actually at 2 speeds, and you can shift while you're driving. So you push down for first gear, and first gear takes you about 0 to 100 miles an hour. Don't ask me how I know that. And then second gear is anything past that, or you just cruise around in second gear the entire time. The other thing that's awesome about this motorcycle, and this really shows how refined these bikes are getting, is this thing has a reverse, a push button reverse, that you use your heel toe, pop that back past neutral, and then press that button, starts walking you backwards. And these are big, heavy bikes, so the other option is get a couple of your buddies to help you push it back, because these bikes weigh about 1,300 pounds. So in the past 30 years, motorcycle technology has changed a lot, and also trends and styles have changed a lot. So Avon makes a motorcycle tire perfect for this bike. This is the Avon Cobra Chrome, and it's got tons of grip. You can also see that the paint jobs have come a long way since that guy over there. This is a beautiful paint job. The cool thing about the bikes that you buy at Boss Haas is they're all one of a kind. There's no other one like this. Even if you ordered this exact same thing, it would be slightly different. They're all one of a kind. They're all made to order. Let's fire this thing up. I'm gonna show you what it sounds like, and then let's take it for a test drive. So you turn the key, you put it on, you make sure the neutral's on up there, hold the brake down. When the owner of Boss Haas brought me these motorcycles, he said, when it does that torque lean, just let it. Don't fight it. You can't stop it. All right, guys, before we take this thing for a spin, let's do our words of wisdom. Philippians 2:11, and that every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Amen. I'm gonna need God's blessing right now. This is not my first time driving this bike. I've driven it a couple times, put some miles on it. I do enjoy riding it. It's awesome. All right, so we turn the key. All right, so then what you do is put your leg up here. You see right there it says neutral. That went away. Now we're in first. Wait a second. You can feel the kind of building up pressure. And now we're good to go. Now this is the big block version. I've also ridden the I've got another one in there. It's the it's a 383 stroker, and it's a small block, and it's a lot more manageable, a lot easier to ride. This thing is a little bit of a handful, but once you get used to the little extra weight, it's actually pretty awesome. It's very pretty awesome. Something that you would think, and I thought the same thing, was that you're like 600 horsepower. I bet that thing's just impossible to go slow, and to keep this thing on the ground, and it's probably trying to spin out at every second and just trying to kill you and throw you off. And I'm going to show you right now that's not what's happening. You can even mildly get in on it. I mean, you can go nice and slow. Now, of course, if I wanted to give it full throttle, you know, back there on the corner, yeah, I'd be you know, in a tree. All the engine components, I mean, the engine and the transmission are super heavy duty. It's actually a drag race transmission that they had to tune for this application, but the transmission was made for much more horsepower than what we got going on right here. So it's gonna last a long time. Now I'm all about making bikes faster. I'm all about modifying motorcycles. I've got a turbocharged Harley back at the shop. I need more power. When you have a motorcycle like this, if that's your goal, if you're like, I want more power, I'm always gonna want more power, you will hit limitations for you know, V-twin and just, you know, regular motorcycles like Harley Davidson. You will hit limitations for them because the clutch is only so big and it can only do so much. Actually, when you do like a tire shredder kit, like stage 4 tire shredder kit on a Harley Davidson, all I've ever heard about those kits was that you kind of made a drag racing bike, but they're hard to ride on the street and they're not any fun anymore. You know, you can't like daily drive it. I do not know that for first-hand experience though, so if someone has something different, hey, let me know, comment below. But something like this is still pretty I don't know. Okay, I don't know if this one is more streetable and daily driver than a tire shredder kit on a Harley Davidson. I tell you what, this is gonna be a whole lot more reliable though. Now I'm a little horrified to go fast around a corner, I'll admit it. All right, let's do this. Come on. I don't think there was a moment back there that I was actually full throttle. I don't know how I got to this point in this strip. It's something awesome. It's just like when you first started riding and you jump on a 600 Super Sport and you're like, this thing's so fast, I could never use all this power. And then like a couple weeks later, a couple years later, you're like, yeah, I got this. I feel the excitement about riding this motorcycle. It scares me, it's horrifying, it's good looking, and it is just fun. I've said this before, there comes a time in everyone's life where it's like, you know what, I don't want a small motorcycle. I want to find the biggest, baddest thing that I can throw my legs around. And I've ridden a lot of motorcycles, guys. This is it. This is it. How could you not own this and then go to your Harley buddies who have like a road glider, a big, you know, full dresser Harley Davidson. They'd be like, oh, you got the little bike? You got the small one? What you mean you got, what do you mean I got the small one? I've got the biggest Harley Davidson around. I drive a big block Boss Hoss, man. And then they're kind of like, oh yeah, you're right, okay. Yeah, my bike's pretty small compared to your bike. How many horsepower you got? 120? Wow, it's pretty impressive. Mine's 600 horsepower. It takes 30 horsepower just to lift my kickstand. They also made up some pretty good improvements on the rear brake. You can't really see it because it's covered in a shroud, but that's actually it's actually a car brake rotor and caliper off of a Mustang. You know, if they were gonna custom fab or custom design their own thing, it's gonna cost a lot of money, but hey, why not get a tried and true and a proven, you know, brake caliper and rotor off of a car, which is moving way more weight, stopping way more weight than this, and make it work. It also makes the parts cheaper and more readily available if you ever need a brake. Now, you've heard me say this about, you know, how it's nice to be able to use, you know, you ride a 250 Ninja, and you're like, man, I get to really use it. I get to use 110% of this motorcycle, and that's fun. There's something fun about that. There's also something fun about the fact that I use 25% of this bike. I use 25% of this motorcycle, and it horrifies me, but I still get to ride it. That's also fun. You don't gotta be intimidated by cars anymore. Because if me and this guy got in a wreck, I feel bad for him. Now, I will say this, the bike is wide. And ever since, you know, I've been recovering, I was doing PT for my knee. And my knee's feeling pretty good. And I started working my knee out. I started working out my legs again, getting my legs stronger. But something about this position of my legs being like, I'm not a very flexible guy. So sitting on this bike, I feel like I'm doing a split over here. And it's actually kind of, I feel like I need to do some, I should have done some stretching like months before to prepare for riding this motorcycle. But it really is awesome, and the cruise is great. And they've got, on the other models, like the 350s and the 383 stroker model, they're actually getting close to 20 miles to the gallon depending on how you drive. Now, if you drive like me, yeah, the road gets real short when you start doing that. If you drive like me, then, you know, you only get, I don't know, gas station to gas station. Let's do it again. Uh-oh. I'm running out of gas. That's what's happening. Oh no, I don't want to run out of gas. Hopefully I got enough to get me to a gas station. Alright, there's a gas station right there. It's fun because when people ask me what this is, I tell them it's the new Honda Goldwing. There's a certain level of respect that is warranted to you when you drive a motorcycle like this. It's unavoidable. You can be the toughest guy out there, and you see someone rolling up with a bike like this. Let's say you see some like scientist with like glasses and like a pocket protector, and he rolls up with a bike like this, and you're like, all right, I'm back off. This makes sense, you know what I mean? These guys ride a pretty bad bike. There is a hierarchy in motorcycles, and Boss Hoss is at the top of the food chain. Here's 20% throttle. Guys, that wraps it up. We'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe. We also did a video about this and a couple more on the Bikes and Beards channel. Go check that out. We'll see you guys next time. And remember, it's not what you're riding, but where you're going. Unless you're riding a Boss Hoss,